Scientists say it's a matter of when, not if, there will be a major earthquake in the new Madrid Seismic Zone.
What if I told you the most dangerous fault line in the US isn't in California or the Pacific Northwest, but right in the middle of the country? It's called the new Madrid Seismic Zone, stretching across Tennessee and southern Illinois. Recently, this area has been experiencing small tremors, raising concerns about a major earthquake. Back in the 1800s, earthquakes here were so powerful they reversed the Mississippi River's flow. With NASA warning of a potential disaster, are you ready for a quake in this region? What might happen if the new Madrid fault line rumbles again? The new Madrid fault is stirring up fears of another big earthquake. This time, it is the central eastern United States, where a long stretch of the new Madrid Seismic Zone crosses parts of Arkansas and Missouri, showing a lot of small tremors. This area experienced severe earthquakes in the past. You might not have heard much about these old quakes. Back then, the region was sparsely populated, so the quakes were soon forgotten. However, the danger is very real today, and if a major quake hits again, people in the area may not be ready. In December 1811, a series of massive earthquakes hit the central Mississippi Valley, causing the river to rise and fall like a stormy sea. On February 7, 1812, just north of New Madrid, Missouri, the Mississippi River even started flowing north instead of south. The first quake struck on December 16, 1811 at 2 a.m., shaking homes and causing dishes to break. People rushed outside, frightened and cold, while their houses shifted off their foundations. Throughout the night, smaller tremors continued, and by morning, the area experienced another strong quake, opening up the ground and causing mud and water to erupt. Gas from the earth filled the air with a terrible smell, and thousands of birds flew away in panic. When the shaking finally stopped, Little Prairie was left in ruins. Minor tremors kept shaking the area until January 1812. On the morning of January 23rd, around 9 o'clock, another powerful earthquake hit, causing widespread panic. Point Pleasant, already damaged from previous quakes, was close to the epicenter, and its residents fled. When some returned in February, they found that the town and its ground had been swallowed by the Mississippi River. But the disaster didn't stop there. On February 7, 1812, before dawn, another massive quake struck right beneath the area. This quake was the strongest yet, and it was felt far away. In Cincinnati, Ohio, 650 kilometers away, chimneys fell. In Boston, Massachusetts, 1,600 kilometers away, bells rang. And in Montreal, Canada, people heard dishes rattling. A Kentucky resident, living 130 kilometers from the epicenter, wrote in his diary that the earth seemed ready to swallow them alive. New Madrid, already devastated by previous quakes, was hit hardest. The quake of February 7th was so severe that it caused the town's elevated bank to collapse into the Mississippi River, washing away everything in its path. The river itself was altered, causing temporary waterfalls and whirlpools that sank boats. It even reversed its flow in places. This quake also contributed to the formation of Reelfoot Lake in Tennessee, which did not exist before 1812. The earthquake's impact was enormous. Seismic waves reached Charleston, Washington, and Boston in just 3 minutes. The shaking lasted 15 minutes and caused even the strongest brick and stone buildings to collapse. St. Louis and Louisville suffered significant damage, and aftershocks continued for days. Of the 15,000 people in the affected region, over 1,000 died, and at least 5,000 were left homeless. Considering the low population density of that time, only one person per square kilometer, the loss of life was especially tragic. Additionally, 5 settlements, a military fort, and numerous Native American villages were completely destroyed. The ground itself was ripped apart, leaving behind sand boils, fissures, and cracks. Dead trees were scattered everywhere, swamps were lifted and dried out, and fertile land was covered by new, massive lakes. The young United States had never faced such a colossal disaster. Accurate measurements of the earthquakes from 1812 are impossible because seismographs weren't invented yet. However, scientists believe that at least 3 of these New Madrid earthquakes would have registered over 8.0 on the Richter scale, making them the most intense earthquakes ever recorded in the continental US, and among the strongest globally. A catastrophe quickly forgotten due to the sparse population and slow communication of the time. The central government also failed to aid the survivors. But what about now? The seismic activity in the region hasn't stopped, and the population has grown to 5 million. If the earthquakes of 1811 to 1812 were to occur today, the impact would be catastrophic. Back then, with a population density of 1 person per square kilometer, the death toll was around 7%. Given today's population, a similar quake could result in at least 300,000 deaths, a devastating loss. Is the New Madrid fault still a high-risk area? In the early 20th century, geologists started exploring the region to understand why such intense earthquakes occurred here, far from surface faults like California's San Andreas. They discovered that New Madrid seismic activity isn't caused by the interaction of tectonic plates. Instead, it's due to the stresses within the North American plate itself, buried 600 to 900 meters under river sediments. Even stable plates can experience internal deformation and earthquakes, especially from pressure at their edges. Another theory for intra-plate earthquakes, like those in New Madrid, is the formation of a new rift zone, or the splitting of a plate into 2 separate plates. This could be what's happening with New Madrid. Globally, only about 0.5% of seismic energy comes from earthquakes away from plate boundaries, while the remaining 99.5% comes from earthquakes along plate margins. In New Madrid, the region's tough, cold, and less fractured crust can transmit seismic shocks over larger areas compared to earthquakes of similar size in the western US. The sedimentary rock layers, such as limestone, in the New Madrid fault line act like a bass drum, amplifying and spreading the seismic waves. It's crucial to stay informed and prepared. What do you think about the risks of the New Madrid fault line? Do you feel prepared for a potential earthquake in your area? Let us know in the comments below.